Hello, everybody. Greetings and salutations. I hope this finds you in good spirits and good health wherever you're at. Oh, I already see a comment from Huzzah. Amazing wilderness you got there. West Aussie is a bit challenged, height challenged. I think about 400 meters or 1,200 feet is our max. Yes, quite a bit different than here in the Pacific Northwest. We have the Little Himalayan Mount Rainier, 14,000 feet. Like the stream, share it, subscribe to the channel if you're not. Especially liking the stream really helps with the algorithm. And tonight, I'm just going to be chatting about this great, amazing little book. And then Christiane also wants to do a live stream after with some type of makeup tutorial. So tune in for that. So Mao's little red book. Read about half of this during a recent backpacking trip, which was really amazing. Great place to read. Highly recommend bringing a book out there. And this is the first work or writing of Mao that I've really come across. And wow, this is really, really amazing. Highly recommend it. Also thought something that was really interesting and cool is that a couple pages in, where it talks about, when it was published, the copyrights, all of that stuff. Text retrieved from Marxist.org, anti-copyright 2020, originally published in 66, quotes from 27 to 64, no rights reserved. This book is encouraged to be reprinted and stolen and made accessible by any means necessary. A radical reprint. So I just thought that was really cool. And yeah, so there's, basically 28 different, it's very difficult to get that to show, chapters, like the Communist Party, revolutionary heroism, study, youth, cadres, communists, criticism and self-discipline, unity, correcting mistaken ideas, investigation and study, self-reliance and arduous struggle, political work, the mass line, the People's Army, just, really wide-ranging topics from, a Marxist, Leninist perspective. And, that's something that Mao talks about a lot is, this is a quote, the theoretical basis guiding our thinking is Marxism, Leninism. So there you go. And then, so basically I just dog-eared some different pages, some passages that I thought were, interesting. Let's see. And then, so chapter 2, classes and class struggle. In class society, everyone lives as a member of a particular class, and every kind of thinking without exception is stamped with the brand of a class, which is really, interesting. Obviously, and not something, you're taught in K through 12 education or even, university level here, is that, different economic backgrounds, different ones that you come from, you're going to be taught to think and view about the world in different ways, depending on what that class background is. So I completely agree with Mao on that point. Let's see. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting note, I thought. So this was kind of interesting as well. So page 6. In the final analysis, national struggle is a matter of class struggle. Among the whites in the U.S., it is only the reactionary ruling circles that oppress the black people. They can in no way represent the workers, farmers, revolutionary intellectuals, and other enlightened persons who comprise the overwhelming majority of white people. I would tend to agree with that as well. Another quote, it is up to us to organize the people. As for the reactionaries in China, it is up to us to organize the people to overthrow them. Everything reactionary is the same. If you do not hit it, it will not fall. This is also like I really love this. This is also like sweeping the floor. As a rule, where the broom does not reach, the dust will not vanish itself. Where the broom does not reach, the dust will not vanish itself. Mao Tse-Tung. I love it. Drinking a little kombucha. A revolutionary is not a dinner party, or writing an essay, or painting a picture, or doing embroidery. It cannot be so refined, so leisurely and gentle, so temperate, kind, courteous, restrained, and magnanimous. A revolution is an insurrection, an act of violence by which one class overthrows another. And obviously, what we have in the United States and, most of the world, sans a few places, China, Cuba, Venezuela, as some examples, are the the violent dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, of the capitalist class, completely just destroying any chance for the great masses to have any type of material well-being or advancement. And again, because that's capitalism, it's designed to make profit. It's not designed to improve the material conditions of the great majority. It's not designed to benefit the material conditions of the great majority. It's designed to create more and more profit. This is also interesting. Page 7. Who are our enemies? Who are our friends? This is a question of the first importance for the revolution. The basic reason why all previous revolutionary struggles in China achieved so little was their failure to unite with real friends in order to attack real enemies. A revolutionary party is the guide of the masses, and no revolution ever, succeeds when the revolutionary party leads them astray. So he's talking about the importance of having a revolutionary party, and how no revolution will actually succeed if that revolutionary party leads them astray, which, makes sense, but I think it's worth pointing out, as did Mao. To ensure that we will definitely achieve success in a revolution, it will not lead the masses astray. We must pay attention to uniting with our real friends in order to attack our real enemies. To distinguish real friends from real enemies, we must make a general analysis of the economic status of the various classes in China, in Chinese society. I think you could extend that, to the US, Canada, wherever. And for their respective attitudes towards the revolution. Okay, so he's saying, we can figure out who are our real, real friends from real enemies. We just need to do, a general kind of background analysis on the economic status of these various classes within society. And then what are these classes and the people that comprise it? What are their actual attitudes towards the revolution? Because there could be people in, higher, economic brackets that are actually, in fact, in support of a socialist revolution, a dictatorship of the proletariat. When in fact, the opposite could be true. There could be people at the lower end that would maybe need a little bit more, convincing or propaganda work done in order for them to, get to that position. So point well taken there, Mao. Page 8. Our enemies are all those in league with imperialism, the warlords, the bureaucrats, the comprador class. I'm not sure what that is. The big landlord class. We definitely have all of these elements in the US. And the reactionary section of the intelligentsia attached to them. The leading force in our revolution is the industrial proletariat. Our closest friends are the entire semi-proletariat and petty bourgeoisie. As for the vacillating middle bourgeoisie, their right wing may become our enemy, and their left wing may become our friend, but we must be constantly on our guard and not let them create confusion with our winner ranks. So that was pretty interesting. The middle bourgeoisie, their right wing may become our enemy, and their left wing may become our friend. So again, that's kind of what I was talking about before. There could be these, semi, bourgeoisie elements, the middle bourgeoisie, as Mao describes them in here. And in fact, the left wing of that could be your allies. You could make friends and comrades with them, while the right wing of that, those are going to be your enemies. Oh, I also like this a lot too. Whoever sides with the revolutionary people is a revolutionary. Whoever sides with imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucrat capitalism is a counter-revolutionary. So that, you know, the counter-revolutionary part and the imperialism, that makes me think of, you know, hacks like TYT or, you know, David Pakman. Who else? Yeah, just those ones stick out, or I guess, you know, BreadTube in general, like, you know, that kind of genre of reactionary, of counter-revolutionary reactionaries, you know. Whomever sides with the whomever sides with the revolutionary people in words only but acts otherwise is a revolutionary in speech. Whoever sides with the revolutionary people in deed as well as word is a revolutionary in the full sense. So again, he's talking about, you know, talking the talk and actually walking the walk. And we see that, you know, a lot with the Democratic Party. You know, for example, there was, I forget the name of the legislation, but there was a piece of legislation that's been sitting in committee since June, if passed, would completely preempt these completely, you know, corrupt anti-woman, anti-choice laws, these far-right radical Republicans are passing, you know, or trying to pass in all these states. Congress right now could pass that. They talk about how they're actually, you know, committed to women's reproductive, you know, rights and women having control of their bodies, which is super important. But then why they've had this legislation since 2013? Obviously, you know, Trump probably wasn't going to sign that, but Biden's been in office since January. What the fuck you doing, right? Talking the talk, they're not walking the walk. That's just kind of one instance that came to mind. Let's see. Okay. Where is the next page? Chapter 3, Socialism and Communism. But really, really good book. Highly recommend it. Here we go. Oh, somebody sending me a picture on Instagram. Okay, this is under chapter 3, page 21. Our state is a people's democratic dictatorship led by the working class and based on the worker-peasant alliance. And again, I think, you know, a lot of people think, how that's puzzling. How can you have a democratic dictatorship? Well, you see, what we have now is a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, a dictatorship of the minority, dictatorship of the very small owning class, as opposed to a democratic dictatorship that would be a dictatorship of the proletariat, a dictatorship of the masses, a dictatorship of the vast majority. So hence, that's how you would have a democratic dictatorship, as Mao was talking about. What is this dictatorship for? Its first function is to suppress the reactionary classes and elements and those exploiters in our country who resist the socialist revolution, to suppress those who try to wreck our socialist construction. Or in other words, to resolve the internal contradictions between ourselves and the enemies. For instance, to arrest, try, and sentence certain counter-revolutionaries, and to deprive landlords and bureaucrat capitalists of their right to vote and their freedom of speech for a specified period of time. All this comes within the scope of our dictatorship. Frankly, I'm in complete support of that. We have those things suppressed right now. The only difference is it's being used to the advantage of the capitalist class, as opposed to what Mao is talking about. That would be advantageous for the working people to suppress those reactionary forces in society for as long as possible, as this, you know, dictatorship of the proletariat is able to, you know, transform the conditions so much that, you know, China or whatever country would become, you know, a communist society, which again just means a classless and stateless society where everybody's material conditions have been lifted so much there is no longer, you know, a need for classes or for, you know, government, basically, in the sense that we know it now, at least. But again, highly recommend this book. It's about 160 pages or so. Let's see. To maintain public order, and safeguard the interests of the people. It is likewise necessary to exercise dictatorship over embezzlers, swindlers, arsonists, murderers, criminal gangs, other scoundrels who seriously disrupt public order. And again, I think that could be, done in a lot of ways. As far as, I think a lot of, again, if you really want to address crime, you have to address the material conditions that, lead to crime, such as not having a job, not having income, not having, any sense of hope, etc., etc. The second function of this dictatorship is to protect our country from subversion and possible aggression by external enemies. It's important. Which, again, I think that was a Michael Parenti video I saw not too long ago, where he was talking about why, why are these socialist countries always so authoritarian? And, Parenti gets into the history of all these counter-revolutionary forces and all of these, countries that were, socialists at the time, and all of these, counter-revolutionary, reactionary forces that were wanting to, overthrow these socialist type, governments. These forces would always come in and be supported by outside forces, particularly the, United States in particular. So, that's why, that needs to happen, as, Mao was talking about, and as, Parenti was talking about in that video. In that event, it is the task of this dictatorship to resolve the external contradictions between the enemy and us. And again, that's a whole, this is something that Mao talks about a lot in this book, is the, contradictions that, exist within capitalism, highlighting those, pointing them out, criticizing them, and then also the importance of self-criticism and criticism of the, Chinese Communist Party as well, in order to advance it and get rid of those, contradictions that may exist. The aim of this dictatorship is to protect all our people so they can devote themselves to peaceful labor and build China into a socialist country with a modern industry, agriculture, science, and culture. And so this was from 1957. He said this on the correct handling of the contradictions among people. So again, he was talking about 57, wanting to build and have a modern industry, agriculture, science, and, turn it into a socialist country. And look at what China has been able to do since the socialist revolution there in, was it 1949, right? Like a lot of these things that Mao was talking about in the last sentence have actually came to fruition there. And how amazing that is. They ended extreme poverty. Was it earlier in 2021 or 2020? They've handled the coronavirus masterfully, especially compared to, let's say, the United States. They have amazing public transit system. The Chinese Communist Party now is, calling for, a clampdown on these people with extreme wealth and income in China. So they're further, working out these, internal contradictions that still exist within socialist China and trying to, get rid of them. So like China's been able to do so many amazing things, and I would really love to visit there one day. Hopefully, actually, we might be, fingers crossed, taking a trip there next summer. It's kind of a graduation present for myself from school. It was either there. Really want to go to Cuba as well. My partner wasn't quite as enthused about that for some reason. But I think I could talk her into China. So if you know any amazing regions or places in China that I should, try to check out or look into, please let me know. Kombucha is delicious. People's Democratic, this is from same page 21. People's democratic dictatorship needs the leadership of the working class, for it is only the working class that is most fair-sighted, most selfless, and most thoroughly revolutionary. The entire history of revolution proves that without the leadership of the working class, revolution fails, and that with the leadership of the working class... Oh, hey, Bill Bradley. I read an article. This has always been the plan of Deng Xiaoping. His plan was to create a billionaire class to stimulate the economic growth and then to enter an era of common prosperity. Yeah, I saw something along those lines on Twitter actually a little bit ago. Basically, somebody I forgot, maybe it was it a quote from Lenin or something talking about how they would basically sell the capitalist class the rope that they would then use to hang them. Maybe that's kind of similar to what China is doing right now, and what you're talking about, Bill Bradley, with in reference to Deng Xiaoping. And he was the president of China in the 70s when they kind of opened up to kind of external development and investment, correct? And then, obviously they have President Xi Jinping right now. I mean, and I agree with Mao. Let's see, what did Bill Bradley say here? What is China's common prosperity strategy? What calls for even distribution of wealth? South China Morning Post. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I will. I'm going to take a snap of that real quick. I just don't feel like writing it down. And then I'll definitely look into that, because socialism with, Chinese characteristics, frankly, isn't something I was very familiar with until quite recently. And that's, when people frankly talk about socialism and they consider themselves, on the left, it's usually, AOC will say, yeah, we want that democratic socialist model. We want what's going on in the Scandinavian countries. Like, oh, that's actually not socialist. Those are imperialist countries that were able to develop their wealth through imperialism. Case in point, this book, which I haven't started reading yet, but it is on my list to do during my little break from school right now, Riding the Wave, Sweden's Integration into the Imperialist World Order by Torkil Lassen. I believe he is from the Netherlands, and he has like the other books he has also written. Like, Jesus Christ, this person, I should say, I don't know how they identify gender-wise, has some amazing material in here that I would really like to get my hands on. The Principal Contradiction, The Global Perspective, Reflections on Imperialism and Resistance, V.I. Lenin on Imperialism and Opportunism, Marx and Engels on Colonies and Industrial Monopoly and the Working Class Movement. And this particular story, actually, when I was reading the jacket of this book, it made me think, like, yes, I really, really want to get this one. This just seems super, super fascinating. Turning Money into Rebellion, The Unlikely Story of Denmark's Revolutionary Bank Robbers. Let's see. Is this from the same author? Oh, well, but that's the title of the book. Anyways, Bleckengade is a quiet street in Copenhagen, is also where in May 1989, the police discovered an apartment that had served Denmark's most notorious 20th century bank robbers as hideaway for years. One of the most captivating chapters from the European anti-imperialist milieu of the 70s and 80s, the Bleckengade group had emerged from a communist org whose analysis of the metropolitan labor aristocracy led them to develop an illegal third worldist practice. While members lived modest lives over a period of almost 2 decades, they sent millions of dollars acquired in spectacular heists to third world liberation movements. Okay, so that's a quick aside, but that sounds super interesting, right? So completely agree with Mao on this point. Democratic dictatorship obviously needs the leadership of the working class. Otherwise, probably going to lead it astray, right? Most far-sighted, most selfless, thoroughly revolutionary. Can't argue with that. He's on point there. let's see, it's page 22. The People's Democratic Dictatorship is based on the alliance of the working class, the peasantry, and the urban petty bourgeoisie, and mainly on the alliance of the workers and the peasants, because these two classes comprise 80% of China's population. These two classes are the main force in overthrowing imperialism. And this was something I was reading it. This was a term I wasn't familiar with, so it's something maybe we'll look up here in a second. The Kuomintang reactionaries, not sure what that means, what that's in reference to exactly. Let me know if you do. The transition from new democracy to socialism also depends mainly upon the alliance. Kuomintang reactionaries. I'm going to look that up real quick. Kuomintang reactionaries. Let's see. Interesting. So it's the Kuomintang Communist Split of 1927. See this title of this journal article: a review of the Wuhan debacle, the Kuomintang Communist Split of 1927. Here, let me share my screen real quick so y'all can see that. Let's see. Here we go. A review of the Wuhan debacle. The Chinese Communist movement stemmed from nationalism and assumed the great fever of partisan. It just sounds like some kind of nationalist, maybe reactionary forces, is what these folks were. Seems like. Okay, let's see. Man, I've only got through 20 pages and it's already almost been half an hour. I might have to break this up into more chunks. And because Christiane wants to do a makeup video thing, so. So this is chapter 4 from Miles' Little Red Book, The Correct Handling of Contradictions Among the People. The two types of social contradictions, those between ourselves and the enemy and those among the people themselves confront us. Those are two totally different in nature. I would agree. To understand these two different types of contradictions, the ones between the people and then the people and the enemy, to understand those different types of contradictions correctly, you must first be clear in what it means by the people and what it means by the enemy. Completely agree. Like be clear, use clear terminology. Who are you referencing? Who are you talking about? Who are these people and who are, the enemy? At the present stage, the period of building socialism, the classes, strata, and social groups which favor, support, and work for the cause of a socialist construction all come within the category of the people, while the social forces and groups which resist the socialist revolution and are hostile to or sabotage socialist construction are all members or all enemies of the people. Makes a lot of sense. To me, like the people are the people who are ready and willing to fight and support for, a socialist reconstruction and reorganization of, the U.S. and the world more, broadly on a, international scale. And the forces that are, hostile and trying to sabotage that mission and that vision and that really, just kind of life or death transformation that needs to happen for the life of the human species in order to continue to happen. And the forces that are against that are the the enemies. I think that's pretty easy, right? That's pretty easy distinction to make. Are you for and supporting of this socialist transformation and revolution, or are you this reactionary forces trying to sabotage it, or you claim to talk about supporting it but don't actually in practice? So I think Mao is very on point with that analysis. In the conditions prevalent in China today, the contradictions among the people comprise the contradictions within the working class, the contradictions within the peasantry, the contradictions with the intelligentsia, the contradictions between the working class and the peasantry, the contradictions between the workers and the peasants on the one hand, and the intellectuals on the other, the contradictions between the working class and other sections of the working people on the one, and the national bourgeoisie on the other, the contradictions within the national bourgeoisie, and so on. Our people's government is one that generally represents the people's interests. It is a government that serves the people. Obviously, you don't have that in the United States. Nevertheless, there are still certain contradictions between the government and the people, as there still are in, current day China right now. And that's something that the Chinese Communist Party is continuing to try to, work through, like with what, the president and the Chinese Communist Party is, calling for now. It's more, equal and more fair kind of distribution of wealth. Let's see. Yeah, these include contradiction among the interests of the state, the interests of the collective, and the interests of the individual, between democracy and centralism, between the leadership and the led, and the contradiction arising from the bureaucratic style of work of certain government workers in the relation with the masses. All these are also contradictions among the people. Generally speaking, the people's basic identity of interest underlies the contradictions among the people. Pretty interesting, right? The contradictions between, this is page 26 for reference, the contradictions between the enemy and us are antagonistic contradictions within the ranks of the people. The contradictions among the working people are non-antagonistic, while those between the exploited and the exploiting classes have a non-antagonistic aspect in addition to a antagonistic aspect. So he's, more or less saying the, contradictions, within, within people between the working class and each other, those can have antagonistic qualities, but you can work through those, as opposed to there always being, that antagonistic aspect, between, the exploited, and the capitalist class, right? But I think I want to end this here because Christy wants to make a makeup tutorial video. So see you there.
Come join that other live.
There will be more talk of this because I've only gotten through.
It won't be tomorrow though.
Probably not tomorrow because we have movie night. So
peace.
Peace.
See y'all later.